All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here. And today we're going to be talking about the Himmy Burnt Glizzy Tour. About 140 people were in this tournament, and it was won by Slushy2K, piloting a Zacian team, a team I classify as kind of hyper offense, but also kind of balanced with some of the components, and I'll go over that in a minute. Question of the day, is Zacian a real threat again after winning this tour going into LA Regionals? Is it going to be on your radar if you're going? Should it be on people's radars now that it's proven it can win a big event? Or a big tournament, I should say, because it's not technically an event. The team had Chien-Pao, Zacian, Rillaboom, Urshifu, Tornadus, and Umbreon. Chien-Pao, I think, is a good call for teams like this because you want your Zacian to be able to do as much damage as possible. Very standard Chien-Pao set, Terra Stellar, Focus Sash, Crash, Punch, Sword, Protect, very standard stuff. The Zacian forfeits the Sacred Sword move here, and I think the reason it forfeits that is because one, Chien-Pao has Sacred Sword, Rillaboom has high horsepower, and Urshifu has close combat. So you have ways to hit the things that Sacred Sword would hit anyway. And playoff is just stronger, period. It's just stronger. Swords Dance and Protect, Terra Fairy for those boosted playoffs. I think that's a really good call. I think this is kind of the way you want to run Zacian. If you're going to use it, you want to just lean into that Terra Fairy, into that playoff stuff. Fairy is obviously the best typing in the game, so you don't really have a downside into going into Terra Fairy at all. Swords Dance to catch people slipping, especially when you have like your Urshifu and your Chien-Pao and your Tornadus here. With Rain Dance to kind of protect you from Incineroars. I think that's kind of the primary issue for Zacian is the Incineroar stuff. That and what's it called? What's the other one? Zamazenta. Zamazenta is a rough matchup for it, especially without Sacred Sword. But having in Chien-Pao Sacred Sword gives you a really good matchup into Zam, because you have the Tailwind, you have the Sash, so it needs to hit you twice anyway. Especially if you have like Terra Stellar. Urshifu with Tailwind support, maybe range support is good as well. The Umbreon here was a good call for the tournament, I believe. It kind of just has everything it needs, right? Foul Play to do the damage it needs to do into like the strong physical attackers. Snarl to mitigate damage from stuff like Calyrex Shadow, because this team probably would get walked over by like a really strong Calyrex Shadow team if he didn't have like tools built in to deal with this. So like I was watching one of his sets on Twitch, and he was playing against a Calyrex Shadow. That was a really tough matchup, but what kind of did it for him was the Dark Tornadus, because he was able to basically get damage off. He had the AV Rillaboom as well. Get Tailwind up, match Tailwinds, get damage down. Was able to click Bleak Winds, get Tailwind up again if he needed because of the Terra Dark. Terra Dark would protect him from getting knocked out, and he was able to get more damage off with stuff like the Urshifu. I don't think the opposing team actually had Tailwind, if I remember the set that we saw on stream. So it was kind of Urshifu Tornadus just kind of dealing with the Calyrex Shadows, as well as the Umbreon. The Umbreon makes Calyrex Shadow do a lot of like heavy reads because it obviously resisted stabs, so it kind of has to hit it with Draining Kiss. But like your opponent knows they have to hit you with Draining Kiss, and you know they have to hit you with Draining Kiss, so they expect you to Terra. And there was a set, was it in finals? Let me check. Where's the match? Let me go to the match list. Yep, it was in finals, where the Umbreon was on the field versus a boosted Terra, a +2 Terra Fairy Calyrex. And Slushy just said, you know, I'm not going to Terra. And he stayed as a dark type, and the opponent clicked Ultra Barrage. The Umbreon took no damage, and it just got the yawn off. And they put it to sleep, I believe. And that was kind of the end of the match. That was the end of the finals. The Rillaboom here, Terra Ground is interesting. My guess is that with Terrain and Ground, it's probably your dedicated check to, what's it called? Miraidon, as well as having like boosted high horsepowers to hit like Incineroars and all the other steel types. So I think that's a really interesting call as well. Something that people might even consider, because what hits ground? Ice hits ground, but there's not that much ice besides like maybe Chien-Pao picking up. Water hits ground, but like Rillaboom deals with water types pretty well on its own. What else hits ground? Just those two, right? And then grass, but like again, Rillaboom can handle grass types because it's just don't Terra and you won't take any damage from grass type. I think the team is really well put together. I wouldn't be surprised if someone picked this team up last minute and brought it to the LA Regionals. So I do think it's something that should be on your radar, just at least a little bit, even if you're not a Zacian believer. So let me know what you guys think of the team in the comments below. So next, we're gonna go over the meta game. So here we have the Swiss rounds. Like I said, it's like 130. I think it was 137 to be exact as far as the number of people in the tournament. So the actual top, like the top 6, has changed a little bit. Remember, it was like always Incin. It was always these 4, Rillaboom, and then Tornadus, right? So yeah, 1, 2, 3, these 4, Rillaboom, those 5, and then Tornadus was kind of just dominating the top 6. For this tournament, at least this individual tournament, Raging Bull has moved up to second, like I kind of said it would, where I mentioned it would start being the second most used Pokemon, I think, because it's just so good into everything. So it's moved up to second place, still well behind Incineroar, which I think that gap will close a little bit, maybe in LA, but we'll see. 74 Incineroar, 54% of the field, not surprising at all. Fluttermane had a really good showing in this tournament, as far as well, really good showing up. We'll check how well it did after, but really good showing up. 26% of the field, the 5th most used Pokemon, 42% win rate is pretty good. The Rillaboom dropped down just a little bit underneath these guys. Whimsicott has picked up. You notice there's no Tornadus. I think Whimsicott picking up is always going to be hard for Tornadus because it just takes over the job of Tailwind, and it also makes it to where like what happens is even if you match Tailwinds, a lot of these Whimsicott carry Encore. Let me see if I click the it doesn't actually show it, I don't believe, which is fine, but it carries Encore all the time. So what ends up happening is even if you match Tailwinds, your Tornadus can't do anything else because either it gets Encored or it switches, right? Which is not really great for Tornadus. So it makes it a bit of a tough matchup. Yeah, Bleakwind is good into it, but all the Whimsicott are just running Sash now because they're running Terra Ghost and they're running for a Giraffe. So they're not really worried about Fake Out. So they're just all running Sash. Pelipper also can run Tailwind, obviously not as fast as these two do, but having an opposing, having another Tailwind user always going to be hard for Tornadus. As well as a Weather Setter, because Tornadus like to run Rain Dance for a lot of its teams. So having an opposing Weather Setter, a more automatic Weather Setter is always gonna be tough for it. But I don't suspect Tornadus falling out of the map or the rotation anytime soon. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if it overlaps Pelipper or Whimsicott in the LA Regional event. Giraffe is really high as well because the Miraidon team, again, Whimsicott, Miraidon, Giraffe has been pretty strong. So like, as you can see here, Miraidon is the second most used restricted in this tournament, which is not a surprise at all. Calyrex being number 1 is not shocking to me at all. Not only is Miraidon the second most used restricted, but it's also having a 53% win rate in this in the Swiss rounds of this tournament, which kind of matches the 52.99% of the Calyrex. So they are both really strong right now, which is why I think you see Chien-Pao picking up, because Chien-Pao always takes 2 hits to kill, and if you don't Terra, this is just gonna get one shot. And if you do Terra, you're gonna take so much damage that like you can also then get sucker punched if you clear the Giraffe off the team. Not to mention also what I've noticed is some people picking up Jolly-Pao because a lot of the Miraidons are modest and these things speed tie. So with Jolly-Pao, you just kind of can be confident that at worst it's a speed tie, but more likely than not, you're gonna outspeed. And modest Miraidon feels like a necessity for most players because the damage is just so good. Timid misses some of the knockouts that modest guarantees, so it's really hard to switch that. So like if you now, while I also believe Adamant Power is superior, I think in this specific kind of like metagame that we're in, Jolly-Pao may not be bad at all because again it outspeeds the most common Miraidon spreads, which is really good. Iron Hands has a big showing in this tournament, and I actually want to click Iron Hands because okay, so to my suspicion, Iron Hands is on all the Miraidon teams mostly. There are some teams that did not have Miraidon on it, so there's like, oh, this one does have it. This team doesn't have Miraidon. Bree's 40th place team. Oh, this is Hisui and Decidueye, but that tournament player did not do well, unfortunately. So, but it was on that team. So yeah, mostly on Miraidon teams, because obviously Iron Hands is still a really great Pokemon. That's something that I've been saying since the format started, and I don't know why people are waiting so long to listen to me, but always listen to me. I'm always correct. But yeah, Iron Hands is just really strong. I think whether you want to go with Clear Amulet or Assaultvest is up to you. I think the Quark Drive boost is I think Iron Hands is the most valuable Quark Drive Pokemon. So, and it's good even without Quark Drive, right? The problem with other Quark Drive users is they kind of suck when the Quark Drive is not up. Iron Hands is great still when the Quark Drive is not up. So I think it's fine. You notice there's 18 hands and 18 blood moons. Let me click. So like you notice that this looks exactly the same. The reason it looks the same is because the Iron Hands, Blood Moon, and Miraidon have been playing a lot together in the first draft. I've actually been running a team that my boy gave to me. I'll just say my boy Dong-Hum Young, because I don't think he's going to LA anymore. Feel better, brother. Hope you feel better. He's not going to LA anymore. He's letting me use his team. It's been really fun. It's a variation of some of the teams that you see here. I'll just leave it at that for the most part. Let's see. Calyrex Shadow Rider at is 16, which is the third most user restricted. So this Pokemon is still not going anywhere, right? People are been trying to like say it's like gonna finally leave. Like this Pokemon is never going anywhere. No matter how bad or good it does at events, it's never going anywhere. And I actually think it did pretty well here. We'll see that in a minute. Zamazenta and Koraidon. Actually, let me double check something. So I was made aware that the Zamazentas here and the Zamazentas down here are the same. It's just the way they're listed in people's team sheets. So there's actually 14 plus 16 plus is 23. So it's actually 23 Zamazentas, which would make it the second highest use restricted. So I want to correct that. Zamazenta was the second highest use because it has 23 total, and then Miraidon's third at 22. So let's just clear that up. Couple Lunalas, couple Groudons, a few, it was 3 Zacians total, even though it won the event. So it's kind of hard to say like should you check for it, because only 3 were in this tournament. I don't see his usage ever being that high, but I do think like good players, like I mentioned, has a high ceiling, low floor. Its ceiling being so high means you have to at least be prepared for it. So in the Swiss rounds, no, the top cut rounds, my apologies. Let's go to the top cut. 16 player top cut, 10 Sin, 8 Raging Bolt. So that about the same as the Swiss rounds, right? No, actually it's better. Remember what I said about closing the gap? So 50%, it's getting closer to that Incineroar usage, 8 to 10 really. So even the percentage may look like pretty wide. 10 to 8 is not that big of a difference. So it's Raging Bolt is creeping up. Rapid Strike Urshifu is always going to be here in the Amoonguss. So this might be like your steady top 4, these 4 Pokemon. Chien-Pao creeping up into the top 5. And then remember what I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Tornadus overtook Pelipper and Whimsicott. It's tied with them here. Yeah, it's pretty much tied with them. I think the only difference is that they put the Tornadus higher because it had better win percentages than the other 2. But yeah, so it tied with them, right? Because Tornadus is just always going to be good. With the combination of Rain, Bleak Wind, and like Tailwind, Prankster, it is still pretty strong. And like if you're facing a Whimsicott, you could just click Bleak Wind Storm, right? Just at least get damage off, switch it out, and then maybe get your Tailwind off next turn. So it's still going to be a great Pokemon. The first use restricted Calyrex Ice Rider is normal. Then second, I believe, is Shadow Rider, but I want to check the Zamazentas real quick before I say that. So 1 Zamazenta crowned, and then 1 Zamazenta, which is also going to be crowned. So 2 Zamazentas, which will put it underneath Shadow Rider and underneath Miraidon. Yeah, so it was the 4th most used, which is interesting. And then Groudon, Koraidon rounded out. Was there any Kyogre? There should be 1 Kyogre, right? Because Sableye used it. So this is a very heavy Calyrex dominated top cut, well, along with Miraidon. Those 3 seem to have eaten up all the usage in the top cut. So let me go and look at the actual standings now. Do I have those up already? They should be right here. Yes. Okay, so yeah, like we saw, the Zacian won the teams here. We're gonna go over the top 8 mostly, but Calyrex Shadow Rider came in 2nd and it came in 5th, which is not surprising to me at all. I think that Pokemon is very strong. I think this player here had a really good idea where they leaned into the hyper offense. E-Boy VGC, this player had the Sash, which I think is probably his best item. Life Orb is really strong, but also is a bit greedy. Terra Water Rocky Helmet is really good because Urshifu Rapid Strike is really tough for Shadow Rider, especially with Scarf. Tornadus, Terra Dark to help deal with the opposing ones. Choice Specs, Chi-Yu, Life Orb, Landorus. Like this is a really hyper offense. This is kind of just to get the terrain for psychic damage and also for blocking priority. Redirection is cool, and it's also a good Trickromancer. But without even seeing the matchups, I could tell like this team leans into the hyper offense stuff really well. It finds the matchup that it's good into, and it probably just leads like Tornadus plus the match plus the mind that does well into the opposing team, and then it blows stuff up, and then you bring like the Calyrex Shadow Rider in the back with your Sash when everything's all weak and battered, and you just blow him up even more with like Helping Hand, Redirection, like so Tailwind plus a strong offensive mind in the front. Shadow Rider plus Indeedee in the back is probably very, very difficult to deal with. I would not be surprised. It's a team that I think I wouldn't be surprised if people copy, because this is a really strong team. Anything interesting about the team as far as Terra types or items? Terra Steel, Terra Grass is not something we haven't seen. Dark, like I said, so yeah, just Terra Water Rocky Helmet is probably the most unique thing here, but for the most part, it's pretty standard hyper offense kind of team. Came in 4th place. The Calyrex Shadow that came in 2nd was the Wolf team. The balance variation, which is a bit harder for most people to pilot, I would say, but it came in 2nd, so this person did a really, really good job. But I think this is the team that's also been like struggling a bit. Yeah, it won when Wolf used it, but other people tried it, and they could not get it to the mountaintop as high just because, well, essentially, no, you're just not Wolf Glick, but like that's no one's Wolf Glick, right? My boy Sableye, shout out to Sableye. He came in third with the Kyogre team. Very, let me look at the list. It looks like a very balance oriented team with a Tailwind mode. Yeah. Then when you have the Encore stuff, you have the fake out goggles for your switching, your Wisp. Oh, Wisp goggles instant is absurdly strong. It's absurdly strong. It's like the perfect Calyrex check. Calyrex ice check. And then with knockoff, it's also a great Calyrex Shadow X check. So that thing is something you absolutely must watch out for. If you don't have a goggles, Ensign, Wisp answer, and you're using physical attackers, you're throwing. You're absolutely throwing. You have to be prepared for that in some way, shape, or form. Chimpao, Choice Scarf, Urshifu, Kyogre. Yeah, very, very hyper offense kind of team, actually. There's Tailwind, Rain, Surging Strikes, Chimpao to boost it. Yeah, this is a really good team, really fun team. I actually want to try this out. I'm probably going to try this out, Sable. I'm probably going to steal it from you, buddy. Damian Lillard's VGC, using the Pelipper Calyrex team, very standard, 4th place. If you pilot it well, you can do well. Very, very strong team. Very, very complete kind of team. Like, the team has all the tools it needs. Probably can adapt to be stronger, but like it's a really great team, as you can see. Groudon in 6th place. Shout out to the Groudon boys. I've been running some Groudon that my boy Mateen showed me previously. Really, really great. Great fun. Sometimes gambling can be fun when there's no money involved. When you're just playing on Showdown and clicking Precipice Blades, maybe I hit, maybe I missed, whatever, it happens. Maybe it's a bit more nerve-wracking in tournament, but on Showdown, it's fun. Zamazenta came in 7th. So none in the top 4, but it still made top 8 as well as Koraidon. So that's really, really good that it's still holding up, because people are adapting to it, and you can tell that people are adapting to it, right? Because it's not dominating the fold the way it normally does, but being in the top 8 still means that it's still a really strong Pokemon. So that's really good, because I kind of, even though I'm not a fan of playing against Zamazenta, I'm kind of glad it's doing well because it got such a raw deal in Sword and Shield. There's another one in top 16. Our first Miraidon's 10th place was interesting. I expected it to be higher, but there is at least 1, 2, 3. Oh no, you're just looking at top 16 in the cut. Well, no, I just want to look at top 8. So there's none in the top 8 actually. Yeah, so none in the top 8. No riders in the top 8 is interesting. I don't see that being the case for LA, because I think those players will have adapted to the adaptation that people are making to them. But it is interesting to see that it didn't come in the top 8 at all. But I think that's where we are going to stop it. Any questions about the metagame, feel free to ask me in the comments below. Question today, is Zacian a real threat again? Once again, because again, it did win this tournament. It didn't dominate the tournament, but it did win. So you can, I guess, interpret that how you will. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, which will probably be me covering the actual LA regionals more than likely than not. I'll see if I squeeze something in between this one and that one. But yeah, subscribe if you're new, like the video if you're a boy, become a member if you're so inclined. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.